Good morning, everybody. It is just about 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, July 27th. And right now, I have the Monolith THX AAA portable plugged into my computer, and I'm using the Shure 1840s and listening, and it's a fairly good combination. There's a little bit of marketing stuff going on with the portable. We'll talk about that at a future date, but overall, it sounds neat, clean, no issues. This video, however, is not about the portable. This video is instead about the summary of my comparison last night between the Audioquest Dragonfly Red and the Cobalt. That was an hour-long video, and we talked about all sorts of songs. My general impression about the Cobalt was that the Cobalt has a wider sense, a wider soundstage, and a little bit more detail compared to the Red. Let's go to Audioquest's website about this. So they say that the Cobalt is the most beautiful sounding Dragonfly yet. So they still have lots of colors in the rainbow left to go through. And next one might be purple, and the one after that might be fuchsia. I don't know. Fuchsia and purple are very close to each other, I think. But what Audioquest says is the Dragonfly Cobalt, our new flagship DAC, takes what music lovers around the world have come to expect from the multi-award-winning Dragonfly family. Naturally beautiful, seductive sound, and strips away fuzz and fog that weren't even noticeable until Cobalt removed them. Yeah, okay. Well, there's a lot of marketing stuff in there with a bit of truth, and then they go on to say, how is this possible? Like the critically acclaimed Dragonfly Red, the Cobalt has the robust 2.1 volt output to drive almost any headphone, uses a bit-perfect digital volume control for outstanding signal-to-noise ratio, enables seamless compatibility with Apple and Android devices, and is an exceptionally competent and affordable MQA renderer. Not re-renderer, renderer. That word, renderer. Cobalt's precedent-setting performance is made possible by multiple significant upgrades. So here is what is different from the Red. And the Red itself is different from the Black. So let's just talk about the Red right now. The Red and the Cobalt. They say that the Cobalt has new, more advanced DAC chip, which is the ESS Saber 9038, with a minimum phase low roll-off filter for more natural sound. It has microchip's superb PIC 32MX274 microprocessor, which draws less current and increases processing speed by 33%. That's good. Improved power supply filtering that specifically increases immunity to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and cellular noise, and includes a form-fitting Dragontail female USB-A to USB-C adapter. All Dragontails use Audioquest carbon-level USB cable. That's great. So let's not talk about the cable, because the cable is not really what's inside the Cobalt, and you can purchase the cable for anything off of Audioquest website. So that's not really an upgrade, so to speak. It just happens to be in the package. It's nice, but it's not really the internals of the Cobalt. So I said that there was some marketing stuff about the Cobalt with a bit of truth, and there is. So here's the marketing stuff. When you go back to the original commentary from Audioquest about the Cobalt, they say it provides naturally beautiful, seductive sound. Well, okay. Well, I don't know if I would go as far as to claim that is a scientific statement. It's not. It's a very subjective and incredibly marketed comment. But it does say something that is, in fact, truthful, which is right after they say it's a seductive sound, they say it strips away fuzz and fog that weren't even noticeable until Cobalt removed them. That is true, indeed, because when I did the comparison between the Cobalt and the Red yesterday, the Red sounded much more closed off. Now, Audioquest purportedly believes that's fuzz and fog. You can call it whatever you want. I call it closed off. I call it more narrow soundstage. They call it fuzz and fog. It doesn't really matter what you call it. There is, in fact, a difference, and it's a noticeable difference. In fact, in some songs, it's a significant difference. The thing that you have to understand, at least from the tests that I've done so far, and we'll continue to do these tests, is that even though the Cobalt presents itself wider, it doesn't present itself significantly wider for every type of song. So if you have a song that's recorded to be, unlayered, and it's one guitar, okay? Let's just say somebody is riffing on a guitar. That wider soundstage probably won't come off as well with one instrument as it might with multiple instruments playing, because then when you have multiple instruments and you have a wider soundstage and you have better separation, it makes it, all of that together, in my opinion, makes it sound much more wide than if you only have one instrument. If you only have one instrument, there's only one thing you're concentrating on. And yes, even though you only have one instrument, you can hear a different type of sound signature between the Cobalt and the Red potentially. But it's not going to be as significant as if you were listening to a properly mastered, mixed, recorded, and by proper I mean with multiple instruments, vocalists, things like that. Because once you have all those layers of details, all those separate instruments, that's when you really get to compare whether there is more difference, a significant difference between the two. And so taking that route, the one where we have multiple instruments, the Cobalt doesn't always present itself as significantly wider, significantly more detailed. I would submit to you that the detail between the two is pretty much the same. So it's not as if the Cobalt is providing a substantial amount of detail that the Red simply couldn't do. I think it's the same amount of detail, just presented differently, with that slightly wider soundstage. And so it's easier to pick up the details. Now, yesterday in my video, I showed you an example. We were talking about Want You Back by Haim, whereas there's the primary vocalist, and then there are the two backup vocalists. The way that it appeared to me on the Red is that the primary vocalist is up front, the secondary vocalists are right behind her a couple of steps, and they are basically a shoulder width apart behind her. And when you know that there are three people singing, you can hear their different tonalities, you can hear the details in their voices, but they sound shoulder to shoulder. Compared to the Cobalt, same placement, right? Still a step or two behind the primary, but they're not standing shoulder to shoulder. They're maybe several feet apart from each other. And so you still get the same amount of detail from their voices. It's just easier to pick up. It sounds more roomy. And consequently, that might be more pleasant for you. It may not be pleasant for everybody. Sometimes people like a very intimate presentation. Indeed, there are songs that require you to accept that they are supposed to be listened to in an intimate fashion. So there's the biggest difference. Other than the volume that we talked about, that's the biggest difference in the sound quality. There is no doubt in my mind that the Cobalt has a significantly better power output for your headphones. Using the same headphone yesterday, which was the Neumann NDH20, I got two very different power responses. The Cobalt simply had an arbitrary number, 25% better output. It made my headphones 25% louder than the Red did. And if you're looking for a significant boost in your audio volume, then the Cobalt is the clear winner between that and the Red. Overall, is the Cobalt a much better upgrade from the Red? So let's assume this. You have the money for the Red right now. Should you wait another X amount of time before you can save up money and buy the Cobalt? That's a personal decision you have to make. I can't comment about that. What I can say is that from my own personal listening experience, there is a difference between the two. The way that the song is presented also provides a different sound signature. Maybe it's not a huge difference. It's not like you're listening to a $200 DAC amp from Amazon versus the THX 789. That's a huge difference. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a slight difference in presentation. I don't think that this USB stick. See, this is the problem. I can't yet reach my conclusion and say it's not worth $300, but I can say across the board that I find it very hard to accept that a USB DAC is $300. Now, maybe when we continue our tests and we compare to other things, I may end up saying, yeah, the Cobalt is worth $300 in my opinion, or it's not worth $300 in my opinion. I don't know yet. But just comparing the red and the blue, if we're limited to those two things, is it worth spending an additional $100 to get the Cobalt? Maybe. And that's because I can't tell you what to do. The difference in the DAC chip, I don't know what difference it really presents. I mean, there's no real difference in the sound quality. There's just a difference in the width. So I wouldn't be too concerned about the DAC chip. If you have the red and you're not satisfied that your headphones are getting loud enough, and you still want to stick with this form factor with the USB stick, that's what you want, then yeah, the Cobalt is significantly better. But then you start counting up the money that you've spent. You spend $200 on the red, then you spend another $300 on the Cobalt. That's $500. And if you just sell your red, you can get probably 50 to 60% back on the money you originally spent. Save up a little bit more, and you can get a Cord Mojo. You can definitely afford at that point you could definitely afford the portable THX from Monolith. You could get the FIO Q5, but those are very different form factors. And so there's a lot of give and take involved with this. If you are adamant that you definitely want a USB stick for your laptop and you will not accept anything else, you have alternatives, obviously, to Audioquest. There are many other USB sticks. Sabaj makes one or two. There are some other Chinese brands that make a few. But Audioquest is the one that's really cornered the market, at least at sound quality with audiophiles. They really do like how this sounds. And I have to agree that both the red and the Cobalt sound very good. But is the Cobalt a replacement for something like the Mojo, the portable THX, the Q5? We'll see. Tests are going to be done, and we will find out whether that is the case or not. Hopefully that has been of some help. Ultimately, is there any reason for you to upgrade from the red to the Cobalt? I mean, is there something that just makes me want to say, absolutely, right now, why even consider the red anymore? No, not really. I don't think so. I don't think it's that type of conclusion. I don't think that if you have the red that you need to absolutely go out and buy the Cobalt, nor do I think that if you have a choice between the two that you must absolutely buy the Cobalt. The difference is not all that much overall if you just think about the price and the features that you get. Maybe somebody doesn't want the additional power output. That's entirely possible. Maybe you're using IEMs, and if so, then you don't really need the additional power output. Your IEMs will get plenty loud with the red. Maybe you simply don't want to spend the extra $100. In that case, no problem. That's a very good reason that you shouldn't go for the Cobalt. Maybe you don't really want a slightly wider sound presentation. In which case, go for the Cobalt. Go for the red. Now, a couple of people have commented since this video from last night that maybe there's a difference in the sound because of the volume. What if I volume match? Well, I did volume match yesterday, and I was volume matching yesterday. Even with the volume matching, the Cobalt sounded wider. So it's not volume matching. It's not that the Cobalt is, because it has a little bit more power, I need to decrease the volume a little bit so it's matched, and so that'll be an equal presentation. It's not that way at all. Even at volume matched, which I did repeatedly, the Cobalt significantly, the Cobalt is noticeably wider. Another person commented, well, why don't you use MQA files or high-res files, and that's a reasonable critique. And I have promised to start using more high-res files in conjunction with my Spotify playlist, test playlist. The bottom line is that everybody has a Spotify account, right? A lot of people have a Spotify account. Many more people have a Spotify account than Tidal, if for nothing else than because Tidal is double the price. And in my opinion, I did this test maybe 6 weeks ago between Spotify and Tidal, and I told you Tidal does have a difference, but it's not enough, in my opinion, to justify a double price per month. I don't think it's different enough to justify getting Tidal, at least not for me. As far as getting high-res files, DSD files, FLAC files, that's fine. That's all well and good. We can certainly go down that road, and we can put that into our testing parameters. But as far as Spotify and Tidal, I think that I've pretty much given up on Tidal. Tidal is just not worth it. The frustration of finding the songs because you have to put it in the right phrasing in order to get it, and the fact that Tidal doesn't have all the songs, although I assume that they have tried, and that the sound difference between the two, Spotify Premium and Tidal Premium, it's not enough. It's just not enough for me to say definitely go and switch to Tidal. So I'm not going to use Tidal. I'm going to opt out of Tidal in the next couple of weeks when my free subscription is up. All right. Hopefully this has been of some help. I will continue to do the Cobalt versus everything in the future. Later today, we are going to upload a comparison between the portable THX and the Mojo. That should be somewhat interesting. Now, I want you to try to guess which one will be the winner of whatever criteria you have set. So what will we be looking at? Clarity. We'll compare the Dirac Sensorround feature on the portable, and whether that makes a huge difference with respect to regular non-Dirac on the portable and Dirac versus the Mojo's no Dirac function at all. We'll also talk about some of the the user interface sort of stuff and all the gimmicks and stuff that both have, really. And we will then talk about the overall sound impression. That's going to be in a couple hours, so stay tuned. Finally, if you haven't written down a joke yet on the original video between the Cobalt and the Red, do that, because if you make me laugh more than the others, you will get the Tidal 2-month free thing. So put a little bit of effort in. Come on, make me laugh. There have been some good attempts so far. I have to say, the good attempts. I'm not making comments about them. I can't say which one's funnier than the other. I'm just going to say good attempts. If anybody else wants to jump in, you got until midnight tomorrow, Sunday, to do it, because the contest will end then, and on Monday I will announce the winner. Have a wonderful day. The comparison between the Mojo and the portable THX is going to come in a couple hours. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you later.